once again, is on education for becoming. I know it's a distinctive title. It's very important, though, because the education for becoming is helping children realize more and more, year after year, the capacities they have, how to fulfill those capacities, how to actualize them, whether they're intellectual or they're physical, but you're always learning the habits and the attitudes of how to get better, how to become. That's education for becoming. It includes the traditional subjects, reading, math, social studies, but behind them all are developing these habits and attitudes to live a becoming life. Now, when we say that term, you'll recall we're talking about growth. We're talking about personal growth, which leads to your achievements, your successes. You're getting better and better, whether it's as a writer or a baseball player. There's a progress of the talents that you have and the abilities that you have. But secondly, the growth also has to do with your capacity to help, support, bless other people. A big part of our whole life is the way we impact others and the way they impact us. And learning to get better and better at that is a part of education for becoming. Now, you'll recall I referenced some historical thinkers as well as philosophers and scientists who pretty much say the same thing. We are wired. We are put together to set high-level goals. In fact, if you'll recall in The Distracted Mind by Grassley and Rosen, they said that the pinnacle of human evolution of the mind is the ability to set high goals. Now, of course, hand in hand with that is then also having cognitive functioning and executive functioning. So ideally, the end of this process is somebody who's mature. And what does mature mean? They take responsibility for their growth, for their achievement, for their successes. They take responsibility for their impact on the lives of other people. They are responsible to bring forth all that they possibly are. I call this, when I talk with young people, middle school age people, we talk about becoming self-determined, self-reliant, responsible. I'm the one who's in charge of my life as much as possible. I can't control all the circumstances, but once I receive the responsibility to grow and thrive, then there's much that I can do. I can figure out how to become. That's education for becoming. So ultimately, that's what you want, is the self-determined young person. I think many of us are even wrestling with the same thing, how to keep having goals in life and keep making a positive impact on the people that are around us and the people that we're responsible for. Now, what's important to understand, though, is in all this goal setting and this aspirations to become a better person is the necessity for cognitive control and executive functioning. Okay, and I'll explain a little bit. As human beings, we're also wired to survive. So how we're going to maintain goal setting, our tendency would be to avoid goals, to avoid the extra work that they require. Because any kind of growth, any kind of advancement to another level always requires some kind of effort, sometimes a lot of effort, but it goes hand in hand. So as we're helping children set goals, academic goals, athletic goals, musical goals, they run into the natural reactions of their being. We like pleasure. That's normal. We like to play. That's normal. We don't like stress. We want to be at peace, comfortable. That's normal. The tendency for that is normal. So we like to avoid work if we can. There's a part of us, I guess, is I've read it where it says, we're looking for a level of peace and satisfaction and joy. So work just takes us out of that. So there's a tendency for us to avoid the work. Now we learn later on, we've got to control those tendencies. We have a tendency to be selfish, self-centered. Everything is about me. See, and that's good because you're taking care of yourself. That's a very, very important aspect of who we are. But every one of these aspects that are a part of who we are can eventually take us over and influence our inability to set goals and to reach goals and therefore to become. So consequently, they need to be monitored. They need to be managed so that gradually the responsibility for that management will be a human being's responsibility. That's where you want your children to end up, is when they're 25, 30 years of age, and they have goals at work or goals at school or whatever they may be. They know how to take the responsibility for them. They know how to manage these internal distractions that could overtake them and succeed at their goal. Okay, my main point in this video is to talk about this continuum from the time they're 5 or 6 and just approaching the age of reasoning, all the way to when they're finally independent. They can make their own choices. They can regulate themselves. They can execute whatever goals that they have and go after them. But there's a continuum, and it begins at that early age, 5, 6, 7 years of old, 7 years of age, when they are just beginning to have some sense of reasoning. Well, at that point in time, teachers and parents need to be 95% of the cognitive control. They need to be 95% of the executive functioning. There's lots of coaching. What are our goals on the baseball team this summer? What are our goals for math over the summer? What do we hope to accomplish at the piano this summer? We're the ones who are always recommending the goals. Then, once again, at that age, we're the adults that are saying, well, we got to manage our time. When are we going to practice? Let's look at our schedule for the day. Let's look at our schedule for the week. Oh, it's all top down. You and I, teachers and parents, we are the executive functioning. We are the cognitive control. We are their frontal lobe until they can grow old enough to do it themselves. Then between that point and when we can give them full confidence in their to be self-driven, to be self-determined, there's a transition from being almost 90 to 100% top-down to a collaboration, to a discussion, to a conversation. Still very tight when they're young, 8 or 9 years old. There still has to be the conversation at the beginning of the summer. Okay, we're going to have fun, but what can we come up with a couple of goals? We'd like to get better at something. Or as I told my 8th grade students recently, I said, have you thought about just all summer, one thing, write a letter to your grandparents. Tell them about the year. Tell them all the good things that happened and what you're excited about over the summer. You see, there's some effort to reach out to them. Probably they wouldn't think of it themselves, but it's the coach. It's coach teacher, coach mommy, coach daddy that are helping them establish goals. Then you've got to help them establish time. When are we going to do it, honey? When are you going to work on this? How often are we going to practice? Where will we practice? You are helping them with their cognitive control. This is going to be hard. Do you want to spend 15 minutes practicing a day? Half hour practicing a day? Recently, I had some excellent math students who want to get ready for math counts next year. And they and their parents agreed they want to put in 45 minutes a night between now and the beginning of next year, when they will prepare themselves for next year's math competition. I was so impressed by that. But I told the mom and dad, I said, this is a wonderful idea, but who is going to help those boys and girls study when they've got a video game right there? Who is going to be the one who's going to say, let's put that away for a half hour and buckle down to work? You see, it still requires somebody. The kids want it. They want to get good. They want to make it to the state finals again, maybe even make it to the nationals next year. But they still need some external cognitive control, some external executive functioning in order to reach their goal. So this continuum from being 90 to 100% top down, that little by little, you're talking with them about their goals, talking with them about the time arrangement, talking with them about how to minimize the extent of play and fun that they want to have. Not minimize it, but just control it so they don't sacrifice the goals that they want to get to. How to learn to overcome selfishness with one friend, maybe 2 friends. This conversation, especially in elementary and middle school, and then also in high school. boy, do the kids need conversations to understand themselves, understand their anger sometimes, understand their selfishness. It's okay to feel like that and want to be like that, but look how it's affecting your relationships. They need conversations. They need talk. They need discussions so that together, you and your son and daughter, you and your students are like a team leading toward taking full responsibility for the decisions you make in your life, for the goals you establish, and for getting there. So from being almost all entirely their cognitive control and their executive functioning to making the conversation little by little, passing off the responsibility and expecting the outcomes and acting according to the outcomes of the responsibility all the way to the point even in their late teens and early 20s, you have some confidence they're on their own. Although I would suggest when it comes to cognitive control, when it comes to executive functioning, we need helpers our whole life long. But we'd still like the main energy, the drive to be with the individual, the self-driven individual who's making wonderful choices about the person they are becoming. Thank you very much.